Hello there, traders. Hello there, traders. Welcome back to the TOGS Trading Podcast number 44, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, everybody's talking about artificial intelligence as the future of trading, but the reality is it a silver bullet? Or is it just another shiny object in the trading realm? All right. So today we are going to ask that big question, namely, can AI really do all of your trading for you? So hopefully by the end of that, you'll have a little bit of an insight. I have no doubt that you will have your own thoughts and comments, and please feel free to add them into the comments for those of you watching it on YouTube. Thanks to everybody who subscribes, or even just the opportunity to just ping us a message us, with your own thoughts and comments. We always really appreciate that. As always, I am joined by Big Ian in Dublin. Hello. How are you doing? Looking good,
fine,
Billy
thanks.
Ray?
Fine, thanks very much. I stayed up too late last night watching a film, and I have to admit the entire preparation I've done for this seems to mostly evolve around watching a South Park, which they did last week on AI, which mirrors many of the same ideas that I have with AI myself. But anyway, there you go.
Right. Well, there you go. Let's see what that brings to the discussion today. Clearly, for those of you who are watching the video version of this, looks like you are on a phone rather than on your desktop today.
Yes,
everything all right?
Yes, I have children in the house, and they're all sitting downstairs watching the Goonies on Netflix on my laptop. Because school has started, but he started yesterday back at school, my son. But today they're off, and tomorrow is the first full day. So I have friends around the house from him, just keep each other occupied, basically. So they're just watching that. So I using my iPhone, and I just wanted as well to see how it worked out, which seems to be, to see if it gives me another option besides carting around a laptop everywhere.
Right. Well, no, it works. All right, it works. Everybody can see you. Everybody can hear you and stuff. So, all good. So, all right, come on then, Ian. Can AI really do all of your trading for you? All right. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking?
I didn't really think that was the best question in a way. What I thought was, can you trust AI to do your trading for you? I thought that was much more that when I was going through it and thinking about it, I was much more worried about how much trust you can actually put in it to do because the actual trading, no problem. It can sit there and buy and sell for you, but can you trust it to make the right decisions? And that's really where the big question comes down to, because every time in every trade, somebody has to lose and somebody has to win. So if it's all AI, one AI has to lose and the other AI has to win. It's the same as what it is now. So someone's AI is not going to do as well as somebody else's AI. And that was the thing I kind of thought about as well in the future, what you could end up seeing, instead of people trading actual stocks or futures or whatever, what you would end up doing is going from vendor to vendor with AI, and then just putting your money in there like a fund, basically. And if you could get your money in and out quite quickly, that would be another avenue for people to go into. So they just go into whatever AI was really popular for that particular moment. You know how that would work. How that would work, I really don't. It depends. I suppose it would depend, because it would depend on volumes and all the things like that. But I could see a thing where you would do something like that, migrate AIs rather than just trading stocks, yourself or whatever. If there was enough volume in it. I think also as well, the other thing with AI is that it really needs to be supervised. At the moment, it definitely needs to be supervised. It's like and I think any algorithmic trading always needs to be supervised. You need a human to be there to switch it on, switch it off, know when it's not performing. Because if your AI went rogue on you, you'd find yourself bankrupt, and worse than bankrupt, in short order, basically. So I don't know. It's really a trust question, not a if can it question.
Well, I suppose, you're going to get to a point of discussions about trust in terms of actually how much would you trust AI to engage. But I think probably maybe if we just take a step back, really, just to sort of to frame it, and you're absolutely right. Maybe perhaps we could have sort of just considered some better question. But if you were to take a moment to think about, what do you think the pros of of using AI in your trading? And I don't even necessarily mean
Mm.
to trade, but just even, have you given it any consideration how it could help you? Do you
Yeah.
use it yourself at the moment?
No, I don't. I don't use any AI at all. Basically, about the top of the Google page, the thing where that does summarizes the results. That's about as
Mhm.
close to using AI as I would at the moment. I can see where the advantages are in AI. There's no
Yeah,
emotion in AI, and emotion is basically the biggest killer of traders. There's nothing, every year I'm in this, I realize that it's less and less about the technical side of it, and more about your emotional side of it. If you could program that into, if you could program that into AI, then that's great. Um, there's no training time for AI. You don't have
yeah,
to spend years training up traders, which is expensive.
yeah,
I mean, and quite a process really to train up traders because I mean, you see it how prop houses, traditional prop houses used to do it, like where they take in quite a number and then whittle you down. It's an expensive, time consuming process to train traders. It's so in that way, I think it would have to be cheaper. It would have to be while you are paying like expensive computer people to build your AI and probably mathematicians and whatever else, people with PhDs in the back rooms of
yeah,
places to build the actual constructed for you. It still has to be cheaper. It's there all the time. You can switch on your AI is there 24 hours a day. Unlike your traders, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, your AI is going to be switched on. It's going to be there. You might have to have one person to supervise it, but you don't need a desk to deal with with whatever. And then I think as well, it one of the things it can do, which is something that humans can only have a limit of it, which is digest a huge amount of information in a very short period of time. So I think
yeah.
it can look for a lot of stuff, very very quickly, where humans can't digest everything at the same time. I mean, if something's happening in Japan, I can't be on the news thing all the time trying to figure that out, or just know what's going on everywhere. But I think they're as good, I think, as well as the builders to a certain extent. I think if you have a good builder, you probably have a relatively good AI. I think they're, for me personally, I mean, the only contact I come into with AI really is, excuse me, is when I'm trading, and I find that it keeps. But I always found this with algorithmic trading. So for intraday trading on the ES or any of the larger, higher volume futures, where you are going to come across AI, what you're going to find is that it's actually cleaner. I think it keeps everything cleaner because it's doing the same thing. It's doing it in exactly the same place. It's not making any technical errors. So a lot of the time when you see fibs or trend lines, well, not so much trend lines. Fibs would be more an exacting process than trend lines, but you see them. I think that it's algorithms that keep those relatively clean, and because humans just aren't particularly clean traders. They can make mistakes. The other thing too is I think it's like there's a lot of I can imagine in a hedge fund there's a lot of boring trading stuff that I was talking to a broker once, and they used to fill FX trades, and they just basically had to wait for price to come either from the top down to touch the VWAP, or from the bottom up to touch the VWAP, and that was all they were doing. They weren't. I mean, they were call traders, and they were filling huge positions, like big $1 billion positions in FX, but they were basically just buying the VWAP, and you could build an AI could do that for you. You don't need to have somebody bored out of their heads
No, no.
who's expensive and could be doing something a bit more exciting than that type of boring trades. Or when you see these things, it's in one of the I've forgotten the name of the book. I can see it in my head, but I can't remember the name of it. But they were talking about how a trend day is created, where there basically is an AI that, or algorithm at the time, that would buy a few futures contracts on every downtick, basically, and that helps price rise. And that's all. That's one place where I think that they would easily dominate, because that's simple work. A decision has been made pre the AI. It just has to, or the algorithm. It just has to carry it out, and from that point, from that thing, I think that's a place where they have a big advantage. I don't know. The other thing I was just thinking, just literally just thinking there, because I have a screen open beside me. Could change the time of day when things are happening, because
Yep.
now it's quite systematic. 8 o'clock in the morning, the market, the London Open, stuff starts to move around this time of day, 12:40. There's not very much moving on a Wednesday. It's quite quiet because people are waiting for news to come out, and then you have the doldrums, and then you have the evening session, and so on, the cash session. So it could change times that people trade, because it doesn't take a lunch break. And I think I think that was a big thing for 1980s, 1990s trading places type traders. The open cry, they all had to go for lunch at some stage. Really.
Yeah. Well, I suppose there's a lot to unpack there. You are right that you are right that like institutional culture has changed. Okay, so in the sense of, if you're the CEO of, I don't know, JP Morgan, or some other big institution, whether it be a hedge fund, bank, whatever, I can see why they've gone down firstly the algo route and now the AI route, until it's just another layer. The way I look at it in terms of what it can do is because it allows you to cut the humans out, right? Your algo. It doesn't ask for any holidays, okay? It doesn't ask for leave. It doesn't take sick days, okay? It doesn't ask for for pay rises. It's not going to get nicked by the competition. All right, it will work 24/7, okay? So I can understand if you're like a CEO of a company, okay, or, of a major financial institution, having that allows you to it gives you almost a sense of security that you can basically control everything, because you're not having to control people, because people are not only on the edge, but they are also the sort of the downfall of most of these organizations. So definitely within institutions, they are going down that route and happy going down that route, and we'll come on to maybe the cons of that. Certainly, probably like most people who are either listening to this or watching this, you switch on any social media, or you switch on, YouTube or whatever, you are probably getting bombarded by all sorts of AI trading adverts. All right, everybody offering you the world and his wife. Okay, just telling you how you're going to basically be a super millionaire within weeks, just by using their AI trading bot. Okay, and the reality is most of that is just nonsense. Right, it's nonsense. I suppose where I do think it can help us, all right, definitely help us, especially old dinosaurs like me and you, because that's what we are really, Ian. You and I, we are, with the old dinosaurs, is that AI provides an element of speed and efficiency in terms of it can scan thousands of charts, but also thousands of data sets, all right, in seconds, all right, far faster than you and I, or even a team of humans could do, all right. So you have an opportunity to basically to scan and model ideas, and also with that kind of pattern recognition, it is beyond human capability, all right. That is, it's easily beyond human capability. Yeah, you've talked in the last few weeks and stuff about how you love like trading a double bottom and stuff, and that's all grand and all that's great, and we love it, okay, and they are still valid. But equally, these guys, all right, or your AI or your algo, or okay, they are going down into much, much deeper levels of statistical data. Okay, they are looking for patterns that probably aren't even visible to us with our human eye, just looking at charts, etc. And so it does allow you to model, and in particular, sort of kind of back test huge amounts of data. The challenge with that is that there is no nuance in there. There's no nuance or adaptability to markets, but certainly handling all that data, being able to back test it, and from that model, whether that be ideas or methods or concepts, look for differences, divergence, dissonance, etc., that you can basically utilize. I think that will only increase. And as I said, you and I are dinosaurs, but the generations after us, they've grown up. They've grown up quite happy and quite comfortable with basically almost like offloading cognitive tasks and cognitive skills to computers, whether you want to call that an algo, whether you want to call it AI, etc. They are much more comfortable at, which is a bonus. But I would also suggest that it's two sides of the same coin. Okay, being able to be comfortable handing off some of those skills and tasks to AI is also where we start to see people abdicating responsibility. So just invariably just handing it off, taking it off, which means that when things change, because they always do, all right, everyone who trades has to be prepared to ready to adapt to changing markets. Invariably, that is where you start to see there are challenges. Now, listen, perhaps institutional AI is so good these days that they are able to identify those kind of possible changes beforehand and adapt to it. Perhaps maybe that's the case. Please, if you have any insight or considerations, let us know. We'd love to hear that. But as a general rule, it is, certainly one of the things that basically is one of my edges, which we talked about a few weeks ago, is the ability to adapt to new market environments, to recognize that things have changed, and then to be able to adapt to it. And that's an edge for me as a trader. And I don't believe that AI, certainly in the, let's say, in the retail space, doesn't really have that. Now, I'd say part of that is because, like any coding algo, it is, and you mentioned it before yourself, it is a little bit of garbage in, garbage out. If you're not putting in the right prompt and the right prompt engineering, well, then invariably you shouldn't be too shocked when either your indicator or your code or your trading idea or concept, etc., is particularly flawed. And I am as guilty of that as the next guy. I kind of use quite a few AI elements in my, let's say, in the overall business, and part of that is trading business. But I this is me showing up my dinosaur, element from a previous age, is that, I think of treating my kind of AI tools, treating them like an intern, and as in you can't trust them to get it right, and you have to basically be on the case, and even in cases I have, I've called out and given some of my AI tools a bit of a hard time and stuff when they have repeatedly failed to deliver for me. Okay, and I'm just asking it to do stuff like, I've trialed it doing things like briefs. Okay, like a daily FX brief or a brief on markets, etc. And and they've got it wrong, or the data's wrong, which I pick up because I'm on top of my game and I know it and recognize it, but it isn't. And I've used, let's say, somewhat colourful agricultural language in my conversations with AI. So when those kind of T1000 Terminator robots take over, they'll be coming to my door first to basically to pin me for that. But it is that kind of garbage in, garbage out. All right, in the same way that that if you're going to code up a trading method or an indicator, garbage in, garbage out, and that is the same. That's the same for AI, and the only way you find that out is by actually being able to check and test, or check, test, refine it. And I think that's, as I said, because people want to be able to abdicate responsibility and shift the work, shift the responsibility to AI. That will come back to bite them in the backside. Any of that makes sense?
Yeah, because a lot of it is my own experience from working in offices, is where it's not about what you get done, it's what you don't get blamed for. There was always this sort of like, how do you push it onto someone else? How do you get rid of whatever thing had happened, whatever thing had gone wrong? You wanted to get thanked for the good stuff and get away from the bad stuff. Also, as well, I think those. Yeah, I also think as well that there's a lot of, you're talking about the Terminator drones. Some of the stuff that's coming out of the Ukraine is almost science fiction when it comes down to building Terminator type drones, that just fly around autonomously, and it's actually I find it really quite scary. I don't think at the moment where AI is as well as it doesn't have intuition. And just talking about double bottoms, like during the week there, it's up on my own Facebook page. When it was happening, I wasn't trading it, but I was watching it on my phone at the time, and there was an AI. I'd say there was a double bottom in the morning. And I cannot, for the life of me, explain, but it really gave me the ick when I was looking at it. I was sort of looking at it and going, "There's something wrong with that double bottom." I could not explain it for the life of me that what was going wrong with it. because it's intuition. Because I've seen hundreds and thousands of these things happen over the years. So it's an intuition, and I wouldn't even know. Like if I was to go along now and try and program that into an AI, I wouldn't even know where to start. It's even to start it to where it should look. So I don't think it has any. I don't think it's intuition. I think it'll be a long time until it becomes as intuitive as a human. That just little X factor that humans have. Also, I was also with the whole thing with their pattern recognition and stuff like that. They can get so far with that, but now they can be faster than me into getting into a trade. But what are you talking about? 2 5-minute bars at the very most. So there still is. I might not be the first money into a trade, but I am never the first money into a trade anyway, into a move. Exactly. I mean, that's what retail trading is. We're not creating anything. We're not creating the moves. We're just joining in with what's happening.
Exactly.
And I don't know, AI can, in the way that a trading chart is represented, where you can have trend lines, support and resistance and all this kind of stuff. I do not know how they can do something, how they can make it so complicated that a human can't have any access to it. I don't think they would want to make it, at least in the near term, want to make it in a way that humans have no access to it, because trading is a team sport in effect, because you have team bull and team bear, and one will beat the other, and that's what creates moves, and you cannot be the only person in a move, because you cannot you can't sell to yourself. If you bought something and then it comes time and you pushed up the price because you bought so much of the volume, and you're trying to get rid of it, you cannot if you're the only buyer, then the price is just going to the only person who can possibly buy, then the price is just going to come back down anyway. So there's nothing, because I remember years ago I bought some drug company penny stock thing, and I bought quite a few shares of 10,000 or 20,000 shares or whatever it was. It was big enough position relative to what was traded in it during the day. And I remember when it came time to get out of it at a loss. I was in a loss situation at this stage, so I just wanted to get out of it. And I was having to sell small, relatively small blocks of shares, because when I sold, the price went down, and I had to sit there maybe for another half an hour while price would recover a few cents, and then sell off the next lot, and then there would be a little bit of a drop, and then I'd have to wait for a little while bit longer. It took me a couple of days to get rid of the stock. So I can see that being a problem with AI. Also, AI can be hacked. There has to be a security issue with that. I mean, if somebody got into your AI and changed it a little bit, and it's responsible for your trading, you could again wake up in the morning and find yourself like Mortimer Duke, basically, asking them to turn on the machines again.
So those machines back on.
Yeah. So that's what can happen. That's what can happen with them. I do think. I mean, AI is here to stay, and I think it's gonna because this is only the infancy stage of it, really. I think it's going to become more part of the world, but I think trading is one of those things. As long as humans own stuff, as long as the AI themselves don't own it, there has to be some sort of, I don't know, there has to be some sort of limit on it. You'll see lots of jobs like being a doctor or medical doctor are in trouble, because that's something that you can learn everything about. It's a science subject. There is an absolute amount of information that you have, and that you can do. You can do a certain amount of you can learn that entire thing. Where I think is as well with trading, though, there's a little bit more intuition sometimes. I think where we can still hold our own as humans, really, against AI.
they can, if we're looking, let's say, human traders and AI traders, there is the absolute ability to be able to operate alongside and complement and help each other.
Mm,
I don't think that is a case of it is just going to effectively sort of overnight destroy,
mm,
all kind of human traders. I don't see that. I think what will happen though is lots of, let's say, kind of younger people, as I said earlier, will come in wanting to use AI as their main element of engaging trading because they have been raised to basically, to let computers do everything for them. And I think, as I said, I think that's it's a double edged sword. My concern would be is that I think it gives like especially like kind of retail traders who don't really understand enough about trading or markets, it gives them a false sense of security. That would be my concern. All right, it gives you a false sense of security that
mm,
you are, that having having AI means easy profits for you, and that is not that is not the case. All right, that is not the case at all. Certainly in the kind of retail space, etc. So. You mentioned there about intuitive traders will always have a space and you're right the challenge is, as I've said here before, the reality is it probably takes 5 to 10 years for you to be an intuitive trader.
mm.
That's the reality. That's the reality of it. Can AI help support you in terms of making that journey quicker? That is actually something that does interest me. All right, that is actually something that does interest me. I am happy to do my own analysis. All right, I am happy to actually to do my own trading, but where I think it can help me, where I'm starting to utilize it, is things like pre-market. Okay, just working on basically making sure my pre-market brief is right on point on top. And can it help support me in that? Can it help sort of summarize news quickly for me into bullet points so that actually I can basically get a build a picture much faster? Can it actually, in terms of collecting the data, collating the data, identifying patterns within my own trading? Yeah, I think that's all the kind of good stuff. Things that taking a look at my trades, being able to debrief, review them, etc. That is certainly something that can help me, holding me accountable, using it almost as a coach. And that this is something I am working on for my own clients, is basically just creating to begin with a simple everyday basic trader coach that can be there to help you just basically keep you within your guidelines, to keep you doing the best practice, all right, to keep you, from straying away, stuff like that. I'm all in favour for. I think all of it, is it for me, and maybe this is my Air Force background coming out once again, is that anything that allows me to be a force multiplier is something I'm interested in. Okay, anything that can actually help leverage my skills, basically cover my blind spots, and basically allow me to be more productive and gain more insight into both markets, but actually more my own trading. That I think is I'm all over. All right, I'm all interested in.
Mm.
Which kind
It,
of brings me to the point, which is what you launched in with, is that then it becomes a case of how far do you let AI go? Do you have the trust to let it basically do your automated trading for you? Now, as I said, perhaps me and you as kind of sort of veteran manual traders, all right, in terms
mhm.
of having to do that. Perhaps maybe we're not the best. Maybe we're not the best people to sort of to say that, because actually we've got hard earned skills, all right, hard earned skills and stuff.
Mm.
Um, but I can see it. Would I gladly hand over the keys to AI to do some of my trading for me? There might be one or two. There might be one or two of my tactics. I'd be interested to see if it can basically, if it can perform it as well as myself. Okay, can it actually do it? I'm open to it. But in terms of just basically sort of handing over the keys and hoping it's like a kind of a turnkey solution, I probably don't have the trust in that. Okay, and that could be weakness in me. I'm not that's not necessarily a weakness in I could say that that's a weakness in myself, etc. I'd be the first open to sort of talk about that and explore that and understand that. But I do realise that, let's say, younger traders would happily, gladly do that, but they don't understand stuff like, they don't have the experience to understand stuff like, like overfitting risk. Basically just AI just trying to basically curve fit your trading method to improve it, and then being shocked when actually it doesn't execute it, as well as that. All right, you and I know that from experience, that you can come up with
Mm-hmm.
great ideas, whether they be through AI or from your own manual ideas. But how that idea looks on paper and how it actually executes in a live market can be two very, very different things. And then that leads on to that coming back to the ability to adapt, to basically to understand what's going on, and to have that ability to adapt. And as I said, I think that's one of my edges. But I do recognise, if you're a youngster starting out in your journey, you don't have that edge because you're at the start of your journey. AI would seem like a tempting pathway to go down, to be able to do it, and as you mentioned earlier as well, AI likes to, it gives that false, not only the kind of false security, but the kind of sense that it's like creating a buffer between you and the emotions. As in, if AI is doing your trading, you've got someone to blame if it doesn't go right. You can just blame it on the, you can blame it on the algo, blame it on the AI. I don't need to basically to basically embrace the pain of losses. Whereas actually, my view has always been, it is that actually, you only become a better trader by embracing the pain of your losses, digging into it, learning from it, and then using it as a tool to basically help you evolve to your next level as a trader. So yeah, they kind of, as it keeps coming back to that kind of false sense of security that I think it perhaps gives new people to trading. I wouldn't even call them traders, just maybe new people who are just interested in trading in financial markets.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting thing because I hadn't thought about it in that way because I suppose I don't have that many. Like all the young people in my life are under 10. So I don't spend an awful lot of time dealing with that sort of like 25, 27, 30-year-olds. I don't spend any time with them, so I don't really have any insight into them. I was just thinking that when you were saying there, you're talking about intuition. Just as a very quick aside, I think a lot of guys get intuition quite quickly in trading, but it takes 10 years to trust it because they can't let go of them of the fear that comes with trading, and then they basically then second guess their own intuition because all you have to do. I was only thinking about it yesterday because I was sitting in the thing and I was sitting in the trade and I was thinking the whole day it's just going to go up, and that was my intuition, and I would have been better off if I had just left a bigger stop and gone off and ate a bag of chips or something, whatever. I think the observing thing that you were talking about, that I think that would be a great thing actually, because one of the problems that I find with myself and with other traders is that self reflection has a limit. There are things that you do that you do not realize that you do that are bad, and other people can see those things in you really, really quickly if they know you relatively well at all, or even when they're talking to you, they can from what you're saying. In fact, when you're mentoring, that's really what you're doing is you're just listening for these things that they can't see themselves, and they might be aware of them to a certain extent, but their awareness is quite muted. They mightn't see it as big an issue as it is, or whatever. And if you could have AI come in and perhaps point out some of these things that you're doing repetitively that are wrong, it's it would be a great
I,
thing. Yeah.
I actually have done that. I
Mm,
have used their prompts to basically to question myself, to uncover
mm,
kind of, let's say, my blind spots and what have you. So that was a great useful tool for me
yeah.
and stuff. And I actually got a couple of my friends and clients to use the same prompts and stuff, and they were shocked by
Mm,
what it turned up and stuff. So it kind of comes back to my point as, I might not necessarily trust it to hand over the keys to do all my trading for me, but actually I think it can be an immensely beneficial tool in helping support me to become the best trading version of myself and stuff. And in that
mm,
sense, that sense, I think it is immensely beneficial and powerful. So yeah, if you haven't done an exercise like that, then I guarantee do it. As I said, I think I'm trying to build it into almost like an AI super trader coach and stuff for a couple of my clients. So, ping me if you got any ideas or if you have any interest and stuff like that. But stuff like that can help you. You don't know what when you start off, you don't know what you don't know, do you? And
No,
that can
no,
actually
you
help.
can't.
That can actually help bring that into your awareness. All right. Once it's into your awareness, well, then you're in a position to make different choices, and you hear me banging on about it. Once you've raised your awareness, you're in a position to make better choices, and with better choices, you give yourself the opportunity to create better outcomes, and that's what we're looking to try and to do. But that links into you made a good point earlier there, which I should mention and stuff. So the next podcast, which will be TOGS 45, is all about are you a good student of trading? All right. So I think that was probably one will be very easy for us to talk about, Ian, in terms of from personal experience and from being around people. But that'll be the next one there. TOGS 45 is all about are you a good student? As a trader, a good student of trading itself. So listen, perhaps we'll draw this one to a close here, Ian, and stuff because of otherwise we'll end up talking all afternoon. Any kind of final points, any kind of final sort of closing remarks that you think would be useful for our listeners based upon AI and trading?
Yeah, the last thing I was going to say was that trading, I have only one setup that has a mechanical edge, like basically where, you just take the setup because it has a mechanical edge. Everything else is convectional. And that's really where AI will struggle for at least a while, is to understand the context of where it's working, what it's working in. And and that's basically it. The only other thing I thought about was that whoever is the best AI girlfriend provider is something I'm going to invest in, because I really think that there's a big future in that, the way things are going in the world. So that's my that's my
sad
not
indictment.
investment advice, but it's
And that's not investment advice. That's a whole other podcast.
that's
That
all of that. But
AI
yeah,
girlfriend. So clearly, you've been doing a bit
yeah.
of research, or you've been
No,
getting
I
your
was
AI
watching. I was
tools to do
watching.
some
I
research.
was watching that whatever call it Blade Runner. The new Blade Runner, and he had Anna
Oh
de
yeah,
Armas basically as an AI girlfriend, and I just thought, yeah, that's coming, and that's gonna take over the world. I think
yeah.
because if you're some guy, you're sitting in your apartment and you can have nothing or an AI girlfriend, you're going to take the AI girlfriend. So I think that's it. That's a huge thing that's going to come down the line at some stage, basically.
Yeah.
And
Well, as I said,
I'm going to buy some shares in whoever I think is the best.
that's
Whoever is the Tesla of that.
that's a whole other podcast,
Yeah,
that and stuff. We keep saying that there was a whole other series of podcasts there, but
yeah.
yeah. Anyway, we'll leave it there.
Mm,
So I think just for people kind of like to sort of finish up with is that AI, it's fast, it's disciplined, and it
mm,
is an immensely powerful tool. All right,
mm.
but it is not it's not a kind of a magic money machine. All right, if you
No.
think that you're just gonna be able to plug in a bit of AI, turn it on, and use it as an ATM, I am very sorry to disappoint you in that. All right, the
Mm.
edge still lies in actually how you utilize AI at the moment. Now, as I said, institutional level might be very different, and this is always improving, but it's the edge still lies in how you use it. So, um, and remember, the good traders, they don't just sort of copy technology, don't just literally hand it over. They harness it, all right. And this is AI is just a technological tool. It's about being able to harness it to help you be the best trader that you possibly can be, all right. And that's
Mm.
something that we can all learn from and work towards. Oh, all right, let's draw it to a close there, Ian. All right, thanks very much for joining us, everybody. All right, as I said, TOGS 45 is all about whether you're a good student, all right, a good trading student. So I hope you'll join that. As always, thanks very much, everybody, for your likes and your comments and stuff. We do appreciate it. If you've got any questions or thoughts, or if you disagree with us, in terms of AI and retail trading space, please, we would gladly hear from it. And until next time, trade well, everybody. Cheers.
Bye.